Today on CityCast Boise. There's a restaurant in Caldwell where excellence simmers low and slow over an open fire. AMANO has redefined what is possible in the small town and is getting national attention for it. We're diving into what makes a meal there so magical and how the restaurant's evolution is both modern and rooted in Mexican tradition. It's Thursday, June 12th. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. Today, I'm joined by the owners of AMANO, Sal and Becca Alamia. First off, congratulations on your new location, and Sal for being named a finalist for the James Beard Best Chef Mountain Region Award. Congratulations to both of you.
Yeah, thank you.
We're so excited for Sal. We're like, maybe this is the year. So fingers are crossed.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the whole Treasure Valley has our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Becca, can you walk us through the vision for your new space? What personal and cultural influences help shape the atmosphere, design, and vibe of your new restaurant?
So over the past 6 years, Sal and I have been going throughout all different regions of Mexico. And Sal's previous life before being a really great chef was actually in architecture. And so there was different architects that he kind of made me aware of. And then I started to study that myself and looking into different Mexican design and things that really caught my attention in combination with going to sites like Mitla in Oaxaca and seeing step fret designs and going to Luis Barragan's house in Mexico City and seeing how mid-century modern architecture in Mexico City and how that looked different than here. And just, we really just threw ourselves honestly into the culture, into design in general, and then took all of our inspirations and decided to move forward with what made us feel good and made us feel like the AMANO we wanted to create.
Did you have any challenges translating your concept from vision to reality?
Yes, most definitely. I feel like we were creating something that didn't really exist, to be honest with you. When I would try to tell people that, imagine how difficult this is, taking an old bank in like the Wild West of Caldwell and then saying, but we're going to make it modern and urban like Mexico City, but also with these really historical, like ancestral notes, you know, of having like the barbacoa pits and having like stone and things that was more representative of, you know, like pre-Columbian Mexico. So it was like really a mixed bag, but in my head, I knew it could all go together because that is essentially what Mexican design is. It's a mestizo. And so to me, it made sense. To 99% of people, it was like, she might be batshit crazy, honestly, trying to put all of these things together that don't seemingly go, but somehow do. But Sal also got the vision, but it was just truly in our head. So it just was a lot of iterations and just small changes to finally get to where we wanted to be.
Well, I want to say you've executed it beautifully. I've been twice and it is stunning. It really, like what you created is a really incredible space in Caldwell. So I'm glad it was able to come together how you imagined.
Thank you so much.
Sal, as a chef, how did you go about crafting the AMANO menu?
I mean, the menu has evolved, a little bit from, if you look at the menu maybe 5 years ago to now. It started with wanting to offer dishes and food that I grew up eating and how they didn't exist in Idaho yet, the way that I remember them. So a lot of the food is inspired by the food that we grew up eating. There's a little twist to some things, just kind of with my interpretation of that, especially now with the barbacoa pits that we have. There's a lot more exploration into our roots, of cooking with in an earthen pit, with mesquite and applewood. And somebody yesterday, Doña Eva, she was like, you know what the food reminds me of? it's like eating in el rancho, like eating in a ranch in Mexico. Like in the best way, right? Like with the frijol, the beans and tortillas and the salsas. But yet it's being served like in this space, so that's kind of what makes it interesting.
And was that also difficult? Maybe trying to recreate these dishes you'd had in childhood, these experiences you'd had in childhood in Idaho?
Yeah. And especially in the beginning, when it's hard to explain for those that haven't had that experience to explain what we're trying to do. I think now people get it a lot more and they're more open to almost any dish that we put out there. They're gonna want to try it. It's like, okay, they get it more now, but in the beginning especially, it was very difficult to even to our own family members to explain, like, do you think that people would want to eat that? And I'm like, yes, because it's so good.
And with your new space and the barbacoa pits, everything that you've created, how has your menu evolved for your new space?
It's evolved a little bit already, but there's a lot more that we are going to do. We do have to be careful with how fast you move something, right, or evolve. First, because of the team, so you want the obviously moving into a new space that's a lot bigger, more seating capacity. It adds a lot of strain in the kitchen to adapt to that. But I have a lot of things in my head right now that I want to experiment with. But yeah, we have to be careful with how much we push. It has to feel natural, right? That as we evolve, we're still getting to know the pits and how to cook in the pits and understanding temperatures. And I'm already like at my 10th rendition of different like wood and more and heat, and the Amano menu is going to keep evolving, even if it doesn't evolve as fast as we may want.
I think Sal's being really humble in this thing, saying how it has evolved or indicating that it hasn't as much. He's out there like every night and every morning. He's the only one who does all of the meats and the barbacoa pits. And so they're all prepared. Before they're just prepared in our oven, and now all of our like birria, our short rib tatamada, our cochinita pibil, they're all done all in ground using the ancestral process. And so that's a big shift because now Sal's starting fires at like 10 o'clock at night and putting me in at midnight. And he's, back at 10, then taking it out. And it's like a whole literal labor of love that's happening now. And I will say that when we wanted to move, there was an opportunity for expansion. But the main thing was always to have these barbacoa pits. That was kind of a leading reason for moving. And I didn't totally understand it because I'm like, our meat already tastes really good. And so I'm like, I don't know. It tastes good. Do we really need to, move? But the moment I tried the short rib tatamada, and then I took a drink of the consomme with garbanzo, it literally took me back to being in a rancho in Mexico. It's a flavor that you can't replicate unless you do the process from start to finish. So I know he didn't really say that it has changed that much, but I feel like we have this flavor now that literally can't be replicated unless you're doing this labor intensive ancestral process that really, because it's so hard, nobody is doing.
Sal, you've become known for your thoughtful and intentional dishes. How does that show up in the way that you're sourcing ingredients? What are maybe some non-negotiables for you when it comes to where your food comes from?
Yeah, we're always looking at just getting the best possible ingredients. We're experimenting with lamb right now. We have a lamb belly dish that's sourced here locally from in Caldwell. The lamb is, and like getting to know the people, right? The people behind the projects. We've been more thoughtful with all that, and that's another thing that has evolved too from the beginning to now. Is we do look at sourcing very carefully. We want to make sure that it's as ethical as possible. That the dishes with the most flavor, right? Like that we're getting food that's in season, and that we want to put on the plate.
Becca, for someone who hasn't been to your new location yet, how would you describe the Amano experience? What can they expect when they walk in the door?
Yeah, I always like to say that I don't want you to feel like you're walking into necessarily a fine dining restaurant. I think the biggest compliment is when people say that it feels like they're walking into like abuelita's house. Like that warmth of just being greeted with warmth, having your server take care of you, not be pushy, and just make sure that all of your needs are met. I think that's like when the most magic happens. And so, yeah, we just hope that everyone feels really loved and taken care of.
Amano has become a pillar of Caldwell and has really shaped its identity. But I guess even especially with this remodel, moving to a new location, have you ever considered moving somewhere more centrally located in the Treasure Valley or maybe even to Boise?
Amano belongs in Caldwell. When we were moving out of our or our old space, we definitely threw around the idea of maybe just continuing there and leasing and then building something in Boise. But I just don't see where there's two Amanos. It doesn't seem to me like that would actually help either one. Because I think what's special about Amano is it's its own kind of like hidden paradise in the middle of Caldwell, right? And even if you're driving from Boise, it feels like you're going on an adventure to go out to Caldwell and have a really nice time. But I do think that there's an opportunity at some point to open something in Boise. I just it won't be a mono, but something equally cool.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I've said several times on the show, it's worth the drive. I will always drive. Like it's worth it. And yeah, no issues at all getting me to Caldwell to go to Amano. So I think a lot of the Treasure Valley feels the same way. What keeps you both motivated? How do you continue to push yourself and your team to be creative and come up with new concepts and create this dining experience for the community that is so unique?
I think that staying motivated can be difficult, and sometimes, depending on economic and political circumstances, it can be extra challenging. For me, one of the big things is I was actually a teacher before doing this, and I had a lot of students who they couldn't dream big enough. They couldn't even fathom like owning something or being a manager even. And to me, that was really heartbreaking. And oftentimes it was a lot more Latino students who fell into that category than white students. And so to me, I think it was really important, especially 6 years ago, looking around in Caldwell, when you look at the growing demographic and then the representation of Latino owned businesses and female owned businesses, the representation, it just wasn't there. It's not as common to have like a Latino who is in charge of something and leading something and showcased. But to me, it was really important that we did open with like a full brick and mortar building, because people kept telling us, why don't you just start with a taco truck and see if it's good enough? And I was like, I just kept picturing myself like if there was somebody who was like a French chef, and I could picture them being like, why don't you just open a little truck? Like nobody would ever suggest that. And so I think it was really important to take that leap, open up a brick and mortar, and really showcase Latinx excellence. Because I think of the students who email us and when we do like mentorships and things like that, we've had people who are like, yeah, I look to you guys, and I specifically look to Sal, and he's like an example of something I want to become. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. Like everything that Becca said, and their motivation sometimes comes from different things. As depending on. Sometimes I get very motivated by like watching the team grow, right? Or somebody saying how important this was to them when maybe I took it for granted sometimes, you know. And like this is much more than just like a restaurant. It means a lot more. And that's what motivates me like long term, you know. But there's daily things that you see that you go, this is we need to protect this, you know. We need to it's important to the community. It's important to Idaho that this exists here. We all play our role, right, to keep this going and keep growing.
Thank you so much for sharing that and kind of going deeper on that with us. Thank you. You're actually launching two new concepts, a speakeasy and a to-go taqueria. What makes each of those unique, and how will they build on what AMANO has already started?
So the taqueria is going to be different in that it's a walk-up window right in the alley that you can order food from during lunch. Right now we don't offer lunch, and I think it'll open it up to a different demographic, right? That wants to eat good food but eat it as quick as possible, right? Or even take it in their vehicle, or you know they have a quick lunch break. So that'll be the taqueria or the to go taqueria, and the speakeasy is also very different because we're going to be exploring a different side of Mexican cooking. I don't want to say too much about it yet, but yes, that's kind of the interest, the fun part of our culture, right? There's so many different aspects to it that we haven't fully explored or offered, you know, in Caldwell yet.
I think what's exciting about the To Go Taqueria um, is that we're going to be able to use the barbacoa pits even more. And Sal's right now experimenting with using like lion's mane that are grown, 5 miles from the restaurant. And so doing things like that, doing ancestral processes, but using maybe untraditional sources, of like alternate proteins and things like that, I think is really, just really cool.
I think both of those concepts are so intriguing and fun. Any hint of an opening date or when we can anticipate either of those?
It's currently to be determined.
Sounds good. Sounds
Yeah.
good. We'll all just wait with like
Yeah.
excited anticipation.
Yes, we're waiting for the city to finish. We were about ready to open, but then there is some alleyway work that started in the where you walk up to the window. So we're kind of just waiting for that to be completed, and we'll be ready to go. So yeah,
That is the most summer in Idaho thing I've ever heard, that you're waiting on
yeah,
like city construction to be
yeah.
able to open.
Yes, yep. So as soon as that's done, we will post a date. So,
Sal, you're heading to Chicago soon for the James Beard Awards. As the first Latino chef nominated from Caldwell, what does this recognition mean for you and the community?
Yeah, I think it's huge. It's hard to describe, really, you know, the feeling, because I get all kinds of mixed, you know, emotions when it comes to that. But I think I look back at like Becca was talking about her students, right, and then them seeing themselves here. That's what I'm gonna envision, you know, to keep my mindset right and go that this is more than it means a lot more, you know, and especially for the kids that can see themselves in me.
AMANO was deeply inspired, you said, by the food you ate as a child, the cooking of your mother and other family members. What advice or words of wisdom from your family guide you?
So in our family, it's kind of interesting because we don't talk about like the meaning of things too much. Yeah. And I don't know if that's just like a Mexican thing in our, or maybe particular to our family, but you do learn a lot just from observing. But I do remember things like, you know, my dad saying, and at the time it didn't make any sense to me. It was like he would go, nobody's gonna come to the door and give you a job. right? You have to go out and look for it and get it. But that's kind of how I see this. Because it doesn't exist, we have to make it exist. We have to make the thing happen for it to be here, right? Like if Becca hadn't pushed me to keep following my dream, then because sometimes that's kind of the biggest like moment, like, hey, out of this dream, all these people are connected now, right? Like we've even had couples that now have a baby, an AMANO baby that we call our first AMANO baby, but they met at AMANO. And like if that hadn't happened, like none of this would be happening right now, right? Like we kept following this dream, and a lot of people pushing me to keep following the dream.
In dreaming and creating something brand new and taking that advice from your dad, you have built this really beautiful, unique community. It's not just a restaurant or a delicious place to go. It sounds like you really, truly are building something unique that's never been done before, especially in Idaho.
Right. Yep.
Well, thank you both so much. It sounds like you've been so busy, working so hard. And so I really appreciate you both taking the time to join me and share your vision for the future, what you've built, and all that you're bringing to Caldwell and to the Treasure Valley. So thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. We'll be following whether Sal wins a James Beard Award next Monday in our Hey Boise newsletter, so be sure to subscribe for the latest updates. We'll be back tomorrow morning with our Friday news roundup. See you then.